Trump's tariffs against China, major test for Xi's leadership, ex-US envoy. The US high tariffs on China will be a major test for President Xi Jinping's leadership amid the economic slowdown, while the Trump administration's levies on Beijing could be far more effective if the US takes allies along. Former US Ambassador to China Nicholas Burns has said. US President Donald Trump slapped 145% tariffs against Chinese exports, and China retaliated with 125% levies on its imports from America. China is the only country to have retaliated with tit-for-tat levies. Midway through his tariff campaign against a number of countries, Trump posed the additional duties on other nations for 90 days while imposing more punitive levies on China, leaving Beijing to wage a lone battle to defend its interests. The tariff war with the US will be a major test for Xi Jinping simply because the Chinese economy has not performed well in the last few years, till GDP growth rate is slowing down, Burns told BBC on Friday. They still have a major hangover from the property bubble, which had caused a severe crisis in the real estate market, the mainstay of the Chinese economy, Burns said. They are facing a demographic crisis over the next decade or so. Capital has been fleeing, he said, adding that foreign direct investment fell by 32% last year in China. I don't think the Chinese government wants to have a sustained trade war. They want to get a trade deal with the United States, said Burns, who was appointed by former US President Joe Biden and served as American ambassador to Beijing from 2022 to early this year. He also said Trump should take the US allies along to make the trade war against China more effective. The other issue is the major miscalculation by Trump administration. We didn't include on our side of the trade battle our major trade partners, the European Union, Japan and South Korea, and those countries along with the US represent more than 60% of the global GDP. So the way to battle the Chinese effectively, I certainly found as ambassador in Beijing, is to get your allies on your side with us, because the Chinese cannot match that. Instead, the US has put stratospherically high tariffs on those allies, depriving us of that unique advantage, he said, referring to Trump's imposition of tariffs on a host of countries. Commenting on China's tit-for-tat response, Burns said, "It is not surprising the Chinese would have matched us blow by blow. That is what they were doing when I was there as ambassador for over 3.5 years." He said it is important to remember former US President Biden also continued tariffs imposed by Trump in the previous presidency. The reason is China is a major violator of international rules. The Chinese government has not protected the intellectual property rights of the American companies in China, he said. Chinese practiced forced technology transfer. So there is a lot of wrong in this picture the Chinese have caused. But the problem for the Trump administration is 145% tariffs on Chinese goods. Now the Chinese have nearly matched us, he said. The US and China are the world's largest economies, and if the trade war between them continues more than 6 months, it could effectively decouple the economic relationship of the two countries, Burns said. The total trade between China and the US was $642 billion in goods and services last year, and China is America's third largest trade partner after Mexico and Canada, he said. The tariffs will have a profound impact on the American economy and a big impact on China globally. We hope at this moment the two governments will find a way to talk, he said. He discontinued claims that China could successfully navigate the crisis. It is not true that the Chinese can weather the trade war if it lasts as long as they claim. If the trade war continues at this level of tariffs for 6 months, that would cut into the China-US relationship in a very significant way, Burns said. The tariffs will affect exporters and importers on both sides. That will produce a crisis in the economies of both countries. That is why this is such an important issue until it can be resolved, he said. On who will blink first, he said it is a massive game of chicken on an Olympian diplomatic scale. I don't think you can ask the other side to blink first and make a compromise, which is not the way it works at this level of diplomacy and politics. But what we can do is to stay in touch with them and talk behind the scenes, he said. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Thank you, everyone. Bye.